In today's show, we preview 2 games against the Dallas Mavericks, talk about the Blazers' young guard trio, and play a little game of You'd Love to See It. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You'll listen to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen. Coming at you Monday through Friday, each and every weekday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we're going to preview the Blazers' upcoming matchup with the Mavericks. They play the Mavericks twice, Wednesday and then Friday, both games in Dallas to close out the final 2 meetings of the season with the Mavs. We'll talk about that matchup. We'll talk about the guard trio because it looks like Anfernee Simons is likely to return in the first meeting on Wednesday. And then we'll close the show playing a little bit of You'd Love to See It, where we talk about something you would love to see. So let's get into it. I want to start talking guard trio. The Blazers, this is games 2 and 3 of a long 7-game road trip, but they're spending 4 days in Dallas, baby, visiting the Metroplex, enjoying beautiful northeastern Texas. We'll talk specifics with the matchup with the Mavs in the second segment, but I want to start here talking a little bit about the Blazers trio of young guards. Anfernee Simons has been upgraded to questionable. He has missed the last 3 games with an illness, an undisclosed illness, but basically, he's been out for 5 days because he's been sick. It happens. Many of us have missed a week of work for being sick before. Anfernee Simons, not so different from you and I, but he has been upgraded to questionable, which has been typically when Blazers have brought guys from out to questionable, they've typically returned to play. Hasn't always happened, handful of times, at least once this year. We had some listings of questionable for Sharp and DeAndre Ayton. They didn't play, and questionable technically in the NBA parlance means 50% chance, but I'm going to bank on Anfernee Simons playing, and if he doesn't play on Wednesday, I am certain he will play on Friday. You were listening to Wednesday, January 3rd show. I appreciate you listening. One of the big things I want to see, though, and it's kind of just been derailed because Ant, missed 18 games with the torn ligament in his thumb, and now he's missed, another trio of games here. We just haven't seen enough of what the Blazers' combinations of young guards look like. If you're a longtime listener to the program, if you're an everydayer, shout out to my everydayers, you know that I'm a little wary of the 3 of Anfernee Simons, Scoot Henderson, and Shaedon Sharpe playing together, just because it just seems like more of the same, of like another version of playing a little bit too small with 3 guard duos. Scoot and Sharpe are fine size-wise. Playing Anfernee Simons, specifically next to Scoot Henderson, seems like more of the small guard stuff we've seen for a decade. But I want to see all of the combos, and I want to see them play together, because at some points in the future, probably 18 months from now, it's going to matter that the Blazers win, lose, and draw, right? Like the wins and losses are going to become important because they're going to be trying to be competitive again. But right now, that's not their path. Their path is development. Their path is to try to figure out what works and then be able to make decisions from there. So much of this is like stuff can fail. Failing is fine. Failing might even be good. I think not because of the losing, but because of like the amount of data you can collect. Send dudes out there and have them find out it doesn't work, or find out it does, but like without the pressure to have to chase victories. That's the position they're in, so they should go do it. I'm also a little wary, as long as we're talking about stuff we're wary of, is using lineup data not quite halfway through the season. The smart folks, data scientist types who do this suggest that it's something like 500 possessions together, 500 to 600 possessions together before a lineup is like normalized and is it's like it has a meaningful number. They've played a meaningful number of possessions together for where the data makes sense. We're not there yet. In fact, according to cleaningtheglass.com, the trio of Scoot and Sharp and Ant, that is Simons, Henderson, and Sharp, have played just 75 total possessions together. Too much noise, too small of a sample for that number to be meaningful. And the numbers that they're getting thrashed in those minutes. They have a negative 34.3 net rating. They can't score and they can't stop anyone. But it's 75 possessions. It's just not a meaningful number of possessions. I will say, generally speaking, I would say those numbers match the eye test, but I don't think the numbers matter. But the process of getting more possessions, the number that matters is like do more of it and get it on film and get a feel for it. That matters, right? Like moving that 75 closer to 500 total possessions is the numbers that we really care about. Like the fact that they have a brutal net rating with that trio on the court isn't that important, at least for our purposes in the immediate term. I would also say unless Shaedon Sharpe just gets way stronger, I'm probably not going to love that trio playing together big minutes into the future or building with that trio in mind, period. I don't think I love Anfernee Simons playing next to a guard that is the size of Scoot pretty much regardless who's out there with him. I think the future of good teams in basketball is someone who's Anfernee Simons' size being the smallest person on the court. And Ant has some defensive deficiencies, so you're going to just want to have more good defenders. And I don't care how good of a defender Scoot is or might be and will be in the future. He's always going to be the size he is, which is like 6'2". That is a real challenge for him. So some of it is just seeing the duos together. I would love the trio to play more, just to why not? Let's see it. Certainly rather that trio than any combination of those two with Malcolm Brogdon. I certainly don't want to see that 3-guard lineup. I don't care about it. Get it out of here. Just play 2 guards if you're going to go with that 3, even though the Blazers probably close with those 3 if they're healthy, because that's how Chauncey does it, which in some ways isn't his fault. He's given it a shot to win the games. But I want to see the duos play together. What does Scoot and Sharp look like? The numbers suggest that in 255 minutes, mostly not very good. What does Scoot and Ant look like? That's really curious to me, right? Because if that duo is good, if it's positive, even if I am skeptical of I don't see a future in which the Blazers are good with Anfernee Simons playing next to a guard where he is not the smallest player on the court for them. But if you get positive results from it, then you say, okay, why does this work? And what does it need to continue to work? And would it work at a higher level? Okay, it works now against these teams and these matchups. Why doesn't it work there? Just get the data. Scoot and Shaedon Sharpe together, again, tiny little sample size. I think I'm going to tell you some numbers, and I want to tell you up front, I do not think they're meaningful, but I do think they check out with your eyeballs. According to Clean the Glass, Scoot and Sharpe together without Anfernee Simons on the court, minus 12.4 net rating, outscored by 12.4 points per 100 possessions. Scoot and Ant together without Shaedon Sharpe in the court, so just the duos, minus 6.7 in 291 possessions together. The Blazers aren't very good. So they're going to have negative net ratings. I think it's not surprising, particularly that Ant and Scoot would be better than Shaedon and Scoot, because Anfernee Simons is a lot better than Shaedon Sharpe. It is what it is. So I would say and 177 minutes in those 291 possessions for Scoot and Ant. I think those are cross-matching NBA.com and Cleaning the Glass numbers there. Even in the last 10 games, the Scoot and Ant pairing has been much better, and the Scoot and Sharpe pairing has been worse. But again, I don't really care about the I think. In general, lineup data is interesting to me, even if it's not meaningful. But I think the actual takeaway I have from this is let's see more of it. And with Anfernee Simons upgrade questionable and Shaedon Sharpe not on the injury report, there's a chance that trio is healthy alongside Malcolm Brogdon, who just throws a wrench into the whole sort of development plan, because he's totally good and is going to play, but he's not part of the sort of big picture for me in any way, and I can't imagine he's part of the big picture for the Blazers decision makers, but we shall see. So one of the things I want to see as the Blazers move forward and they have 2 meetings against Dallas Mavericks is the combos play together. I want to see Ant, and I want to see Sharp, and I want to see Scoot, and I want to see Ant, and I want to see particularly Scoot play with either of those guys, because he seems like, the sort of big investment is Scoot Henderson playing point guard next to whom? And then what does that look? What do those combos look like, and what does the trio look like together? There's probably a reasonable case that Anfernee Simons and Shaedon Sharpe playing next to one another is like actually putting your 2 most productive players on the court together, like in terms of like your young guards. I think Malcolm Brogdon is better than Shaedon Sharpe, but that's like neither here nor there for the development purposes. But if this team can't be good with Scoot Henderson on the court, that's something they need to find out. And Scoot's been way better recently, so I'm not really worried about that. But again, this is all about data collection. And one of the things I want to see is just like, let's see it. And now that Ant's back, we get a chance to see it. And we get a chance to see it against the Dallas Mavericks 2 games in a row. Let's talk specifically about the Mavericks and what the Blazers are up against in their next 2 games, both of them on the road against the Mavs. That's what we'll do in the second segment. Before we do that, I want to tell you about PrizePicks. It's daily fantasy made easy. I play PrizePicks on the app. It's super easy to use, super quick. You can make an entry, and they say 60 seconds. I'm going to be honest. I'm slow. I'm a little slow. It takes me 90 seconds, 2 minutes, but very, very fast. And how it works is on each entry, you pick between 2 and 6 players, and you're just picking more or less than the stat projection set by PrizePicks. So you can play a bunch of different sports, the NFL while it's still going on, the NHL, the NBA as well. I play the NBA because it's what I'm most comfortable with. So the stat projections are things like points, rebounds, blocks, assists, steals, and you just pick more or less than the stat projections set by PrizePicks. You're not playing against the field. You're not playing against pros. You're not playing against sharks. It's just you versus those numbers. And right now, if you go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA, you can get a first deposit match up to $100 when you use that code LockedOnNBA. So again, prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use that promo code LockedOnNBA, and you'll get a first deposit match up to $100. I'm matching you dollar for dollar on your first deposit up to $100. So if you haven't, go check it out. Have some fun. It's PrizePicks, daily fantasy made easy. All right. So we talked kind of what I am excited to see now that Anfernee Simons is likely to return to the lineup. I think he'll play Wednesday evening. You're listening to Wednesday show. I think he's going to play tonight, just because based on how the Blazers have typically done their injury reporting stuff. There's no updating on whether he will or will not play, other than questionable. But he's not the only one who's been upgraded. Duop Reith, who's missed the last couple games, is upgraded to questionable. He's had that back injury. He hurt his back again in the first game against San Antonio, and then missed the next couple. So so hopefully he's back in the lineup, because another addition to the injury report is Mo Bamba. You wish. Moses Brown. I have him written down as a Mo in my notes. So Moses Brown, he's questionable with a left wrist sprain. And Toumani Camara still questionable with right knee soreness. And DeAndre Ayton is out. So the Blazers have been starting Mo Brown, and playing at Baji and playing a bunch of small minutes with Jabari Walker at center. But Reith has been pretty good this year. He's the advanced impact numbers suggest that he's just straight up one of the Blazers' most positively impactful players. And the shooting that he brings opens things up for Scoot. I think his skill set is a really nice pairing with Scoot Henderson. And he's not much of a rebounder, and he's not a great defender, but he has not been a highly negative on the defensive end by any means. He's totally fine. He's active. And he's albeit he has some physical limitations. So that, Reith could be back, Simons could be back, Moses Brown will see, Camara will see, and DeAndre Ayton is out. You get the first of 2 meetings with the Dallas Mavericks on Wednesday. Mavs have won the first 2 games. They won. They've both been in Portland. 125-112 back on December 8th. That was the game where Kyrie Irving got hurt with about 4 minutes left in the first half, when Dwight Powell stepped on his foot, and then he missed a couple weeks. But he's back in the lineup. He just returned in the Mavericks' last game on a light minutes restriction. So we'll see how much he's able to play. But he's closing in on sort of regular minutes now that he's back in the lineup. And then they played a week later on December 16th, and the Mavs won that game 131-120. Anfernee, and Derek Lively got hurt early in that one. The Mavs were able to hold off the Blazers thanks to a 40-point triple-double from Luka. Both of these games have been pretty similar, and just like the dance that we've seen the Blazers do a whole bunch this year, which is where they aren't quite in the game because they're down between 8 and 13 points the entire time, and they're not quite out of the game because they're down between 8 and 13 points like the entire time. They never are getting truly blown out, but they're never like, hey, stopping a score and we have the lead. They're just getting stiff arm, getting Heisman trophied all night long. That's what it's been in the first two meetings against the Mavericks. But Lively's back. Kyrie Irving's back. The Mavs are coming off a brutal loss. They lost to the Jazz 127-90 with Kyrie Irving back in the lineup. They've actually lost 3 of 4 overall, not just that Jazz game where they got thrashed. They had a fall from ahead loss to the Cavaliers, who played a game without Donovan Mitchell and without Darius Garland, without Evan Mobley, came back and beat the Mavs in a game that the Mavericks were up 15 at halftime. Like, they've had some stinkers of late, so I don't think that bodes well for like the Blazers coming in and surprising them, or it does bode well because the Mavs are just like not on their game, and the Blazers can come in and surprise them. The Mavs are like, they're just decent. They're decent, and they have an MVP candidate. And like when you have an MVP candidate, when you have Luka Doncic, you're going to be good. They're 10th in offense according to Clean the Glass, 22nd in defense. They are a low turnover team, but they don't get to the rim, and they're below average in getting, because they don't drive to the rim very often, they're below average in getting to the free throw line. Mostly they shoot a lot of threes. 43% of their field goal attempts are from three. And one of the things that we've seen in their first two matchups, and I think this is a thing to keep an eye on, is a small player, particularly Tim Hardaway Jr., but a small player, sometimes Seth Curry, and maybe even a little Dante Exum, but a guard, like a non-big man. They'll run traditional big man pick and roll with Derek Lively setting really high screens and letting Luka Doncic go to work with like a screen at 35 feet, get a double team, you double team the ball. Luka's like, you double team at 35 feet, sounds cool. Derek Lively catches it, you get a 4-on-3 situation, and they go from there. But they will also, particularly if you're not straight up doubling Luka, or sometimes if you are, in order to get clean threes off, is set a screen with small guys. Set a screen with Tim Hardaway Jr., set a screen with Seth Curry. Josh Green is back. He didn't play in either of the first two meetings. So like set a screen with a small player, and particularly so Luka can matchup hunt. And so you don't bring a big into the pick and roll. He can say like, okay, and he did this a bunch. First he tried it with Anfernee Simons, and later in the second meeting with Shaedon Sharpe, he's like, bring me Shaedon Sharpe, and he would just call, stand at the midcourt and like do what he does, kind of survey and move slowly because he's Luka and he can get whatever shot he wants, and he bring the guy he wants into the screen game. If you get a double team, you're getting two, smaller guys, and Luka's gigantic, so he can see over the top. Or if you double team, you get Tim Hardaway Jr. just flares out quickly, gets a three, or can make decisions in 4-on-3 situations. Or if you switch it, you're bringing a smaller and the matchup he wants into the switch, and then Luka's just going to go to work. That is something that is challenging. I think the Blazers have mostly just done, they tried in the first meeting, okay, we're not going to trap Luka. We're going to wait and send double. We're going to try to guard him straight up. And then he's like, has just a freaking monster game. And then that was, in the second meeting. It's like, okay, well, I bet he won't score 60. We had 30 in the first half. So then they're like, we got to double team him. And he just kept rolling, and he finished with a 40-point triple-double. But he didn't have 60, I guess. He didn't have 60. But I think they'll probably commit to double teaming him hard. The key is that show him different types of double teams, show him quick traps, and then I think probably the best way to handle him. And you're not going to really, like, he's going to score 30 and and flirt with a triple double. He's like one of the best players in the league. So you're not really going to like slow him down. You're not just going to if Toumani Camara plays, you're not just going to like put Toumani on and be like, lock Luka up. Like, it's just like, it just doesn't happen. Good players score in the league. The sport is tilted towards offense probably way too much. So like, I think the one of the better ways to handle him is to switch and then trap. So he'll bring up the player he wants. He'll say, bring me Shaedon Sharpe. Shaedon Sharpe comes up, his man comes up, they get the screen, and then as you fade away, load up behind, and then you double, not immediately, but you kind of have a delayed double team, which at least, if nothing else, slows down the decision making, makes Luka, take a beat. he's happy to play slow. He tells me he's not worried about playing slow, but at least you can send the double team from a couple different angles. That way you don't have to be it doesn't have to be the other player that just doubled. You can double from one pass away off a non-shooter if Derek Lively's like hiding in the corner or whatever it might be with Dwight Powell, whoever's up there. Like, I think that delayed double team is the way to handle it. The other way to handle the Mavericks is to score a cajillion points. They're a bad defensive team, 22nd in defense. The one thing they do well on defense is they don't foul a lot. They're 5th in opponents' free throw attempts, but they're a bad defensive team, and they play some minutes where they're just really small at every spot, but center and Luka, whatever position you think he plays. I think he plays point guard on offense and forward on defense, but like he's not he's just not a high level defender. He's big, and that helps him be not an awful defender, but he's not locking you up with crazy lateral movement. He's got good hands and he's strong, and he's like 6'7". Like he's the way to beat the Mavs is to score. The Blazers are not a particularly good offensive team, so that's not that easy, but like the way to beat them is to score. You know, a game Wednesday, get another game Friday, 2 cracks at it, and probably with something approaching a healthier roster, obviously without DeAndre Ayton, who's a big, just a big piece of what you're trying to do. I want to close the show talking about something you'd love to see. This is what we do. This was more of your middle part was middle segment here. The second segment was more of your traditional game preview. But I also want to hit you with the version of, or the game that we play here, you'd love to see it, where we talk about something coming up in the game that you would love to see. And this one is about Jabari Walker, who has been good recently, and maybe there's some more he could bring to the table. What would you love to see from Jabari Walker? That's what we'll talk about in the third segment. But first, let's talk about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Listen, the NFL season is winding down. We've got one more week of the regular season, then we'll head into the postseason, the playoffs. But right now, FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, wants to give you some money to play with. And new customers to FanDuel, you get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's any $5 bet, win or lose, you get $150 in bonus bets. FanDuel's super easy to use, and the app is super clean, super simple, super intuitive. And once you get your $150, once you place that first $5 bet and you get your $150 to play with, there's so many different ways to bet. Like live same game parlays, or if you don't want to do it live, you can get up there before the game start and put together the most elaborate, outrageous parlay possible. You can find new and popular bets on their Explore tab, plus over-unders, prop bets for every game. Like I said, you can live bet games. You can place futures bets if you got your eyes on a team winning the Super Bowl, whatever it might be. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Get in on the action. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. We did our traditional recap. We talked about something I'm going to be watching closely with the 3-guard rotation, the 3 youngsters, the Blazers' future, and what's it going to look like as we move ahead with these couple games against the Mavericks before the Blazers move on to New York to continue their long roadie. But sometimes what we do in this spot is, instead of that more traditional recap you just heard, or preview rather you just heard, is play a little game called You'd Love to See It, where we talk about something in an upcoming game that you would love to see. And I think one thing you'd love to see in this game is Jabari Walker make a second three-pointer. Jabari Walker has not made multiple threes in a game for 17 consecutive games. Not since November 22nd, when he had 19 and 10 and the Blazers beat the Utah Jazz. Probably one of their best wins of the year. The Jazz win, Suns win, Kings win, all quality victories. But 19 and 10 in a 16-point dub back in November. That's a solid game. And Jabari Walker in that game, when he had 19 and 10, one of his best games of the year, hit 2 3-pointers. And then over the last 17 games, he's made 6 total threes, shooting 22% from 3. Not taking many, not making many. On the year, he's shooting 27% from 3, and he's dipped down, obviously, over those last 17-game stretch. he's been passing up some looks from beyond the arc. And when he has been shooting them, it's not like he's only in that 17 game stretch, he's only taken more than 3 attempts in a single game once. So like, he's not hunting for it, but you see there's some opportunities where he has not shot him. And I think that hurts an offense in the modern NBA. Like, what Nate Duncan used to call a record scratch. But in general, it's just like passing up good looks hurts the offense, particularly in the Blazers offense that hunts for, they're not going to generate a million good looks per possession. If you pass up a good one, you probably pass up the only good one you're going to get in that possession. But even without Jabari shooting, without Jabari, with him passing up some looks and shooting poorly from 3, he's shooting worse. His jumper looks better than it did last year, and he's making less of them. Taking more and making less. Not a ton more, but taking more and making less. But even without that, the last 6 games, he's been good. He's playing about 25 minutes a night, 24.7 minutes a game. He's averaging 11.8 points and 8.2 boards over his last 6 games. It's been good. So he's figuring out how to be a player, right? Like how to be a contributor, how to, averaging, let's round up and be generous here. Averaging 12 and 8 and 25 minutes off the bench is really solid production. We could round down. Averaging 11 and 8 off the bench is, and 25 minutes off the bench is really solid production, right? Like that's if you get 11 and 8 from someone who comes off your bench every night, you're going to be really thankful for that. That's real. There's real value in it, particularly when you have some other contributors off the bench, like whichever of, like Shaedon Sharpe and Malcolm Brogdon, whoever it might be, like Scoot Henderson and Malcolm Brogdon, whoever it might be who comes off the bench when the Blazers guards are healthy. If I had to guess, I bet Anfernee Simons and Shaedon Sharpe start, and Scoot and Malcolm Brogdon come off the bench. If I had to, I don't have to guess, but I will. That is what I am guessing. But if you have the production from Jabari, your 8th man functionally, that's good stuff. Obviously, he might not play those full complement of minutes, depending on what the front court looks like, but he's still going to play 18, 20 plus, like no prob. So if you're getting 11 and 8 from Jabari, and he starts making multiple threes and being more aggressive and just shooting a little better. Like I think like in a dream world, like the thing that makes Jabari stick in the league and be a really good player is that he shoots right around the league average from 3, but that's like 37%. And he shoots 27% this season. Like he's got a long way to go there. So I would say let's start with baby steps. How about one game, Wednesday night against the Mavs, make multiple threes in a game. You're probably going to have to take 4. You're going to have to like take shots to make shots. The math suggests that he would have to take like 10, but let's say the math doesn't know, because small sample sizes over individual games lead up to your larger sample. So let's say he, take 4 to make 2, take more to make more. That's pretty simple. That's kind of like how the whole league has gone. Let's take more to make more with 3s. But Walker's future as a really effective player is going to hinge on whether he can make shots in the league, and he has not done that well. He's a below average shooter from pretty much everywhere. But one thing that he has done, and this is really the reason that he's been more productive. He's a good competitive rebounder. When he plays center, he's sometimes just like he's just smaller than the guys he's up against, so he doesn't rebound dominantly. But he has 9 rebounds in at least 9 boards in 3 consecutive games. Actually, exactly 9 boards in 3 consecutive games. He's getting in there in the mix. But the thing that's really set him apart this season is that he's getting fouled. He's getting fouled on 16% of his shot attempts, according to Clean the Glass. That is a shooting foul percentage of 16.0%, the 72nd percentile among bigs in the league, according to Clean the Glass. That is about the same shooting foul percentage as Pascal Siakam, as Jaren Jackson Jr., as it's a little better than Anthony Davis. Like he's a big guy who's getting fouled in the way that some other big guys who are rugged kind of semi-jump shooters, pull-up jump shooters, and who have some attacking the rim variety to their game, getting fouled at about that same level, and that's what's made Jabari special. So what I'm offering here, and what you would love to see, is that he keeps doing what he's doing. He continues to shoot pretty well or he continues to get to the free throw line. He continues to rebound, and then he adds shooting better from 3 to the mix. You'd love to see it. Jabari Walker make multiple threes for the first time in a game since November 22nd. That is going to do it for today's show. Blazers play the Mavericks tonight on Wednesday, January 3rd. So on Thursday show, we will recap that game, talk about what we saw, the potential return of Anfernee Simons and Duop Reith and whoever else might be in the lineup. Hopefully Mo Brown and Toumani Camara both available. You want more people healthy is better news. And then Friday's show, ahead of the second meeting with the Mavs, I'm going to be joined by none other than Nick Angstad, the host of Locked On Mavs. We'll talk about what we saw in Game 1 and look ahead to Game 2 and kind of just touch on where both teams are and get an outside perspective on kind of where the Blazers are as they continue to move forward in their rebuild. That's what we do 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts. Like I said, I'm going to try as we move forward into 2024, now that everybody's back and working normal hours again and not seeing their family over the holiday break. Have an interview every week. We'll do 5 shows a week, wherever you get podcasts. Also on YouTube. Listen, if you're listening to this, you love the Portland Trail Blazers. So tell a friend, come back for tomorrow's show. We'll recap the Mavs game. Friday, we'll talk to Nick on the program. More fun shows next week. It's what we do. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.